We are live, yes.
Yes, we are live.
It is 7 p.m. Time to call the October 3rd meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Plan Commission to order. Will staff please note the presence of a quorum?
Ms. Berkman?
Here.
Mr. Deck?
Here.
Mr. Horkay?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Dr. Kelleher? Mr. Maui?
Here.
Mr. McCarty?
Here.
Mr. Schmitz?
Here.
Ms. Boljaric?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item next, we have a schedule of meetings for 2023 that we need to review and approve. Meeting notices were, or this was part of the web information, so hope everybody's taken a look at it. If there are any questions, we can ask them. If staff has anything to explain, I'll turn the floor over to them for those explanations. Notably, probably the two meetings we discussed in the pre-ABC meeting, the red dates up there.
Okay.
Or I can do it.
Yeah, I think the schedule is pretty straightforward and doesn't deviate much from our usual schedule, barring any holidays. So one kind of unique one is the first July meeting. So this year, July 4th is on a Tuesday. So July 3rd will be a business day for our office. However, we were concerned about having quorum issues if we held the meeting on a Monday night right before a Tuesday holiday, coming off of a weekend. So we moved that meeting to the 5th, which is a Wednesday. And then for January, we discussed at our last meeting how we would proceed with having 2 January meetings in '22, and it works out the same in '23. So we will have back-to-back meetings on Tuesdays in January. Or I believe the first is a Tuesday, the second is a Monday, to accommodate the workshop and regular meetings.
Everybody good with that? Is there a motion to approve this calendar?
Motion to approve the 2023 calendar.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Victor McCarty, seconded by Andre Maui. We call the roll.
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Horkay?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljaric?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have one set of minutes to approve from our September 19th meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion from Dave Schmitz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kristen Berkman. Staff, please call the roll.
Yes.
Ms. Berkman? I have my mic on now. Okay. Mr. Deck?
Yes.
Abstain.
Mr. Horkay?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljaric?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Will staff please review the rules of procedure for tonight's meeting? And actually, I will mention right now that one item of business, the Westfield Yard PUD, has been continued at the petitioner's request while they address some comments that they received from one of our council representatives. They will consider whatever it is that they have received and what changes, if any, they want to make and be back in front of us at a future meeting. So the rules of procedure for tonight's meeting, staff, please.
Yes, for our public hearing item tonight, the meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition, then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes to the Plan Commission. The president will open a public hearing. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes. Only one member of the group will be given 5 minutes to speak, and for efficiency purposes, we ask those representing a group speak first. Public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard, and all emails received during the hearing have been provided to commission members. The petitioner will then be given 10 minutes to respond to comments without interruption, and the commission will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition, which may include additional discussion with the petitioner. For our items of business this evening, the department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the Plan Commission. The department will also describe what action, if necessary, is necessary to be taken, and the Plan Commission will act upon the petition. For our general rules of conduct, we ask that you please not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, and again, if you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, then please come up to the podium and sign in on the sign-in sheet once the public hearing has been open. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you will be advised when there's approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person and wish to comment on the petition, please email planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will then be forwarded to Plan Commission members and the petitioner. We'd also like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking, and if you do come up to the podium to speak, please ensure the microphone is on as indicated by the green light on the base. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business is approval of our consent agenda, which tonight includes 4 items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the various staff reports for each of these items?
Can I ask one question about the Farmers Bank, please? It has the address listed as 3.
The time to ask the questions would have been before the meeting. It defeats the purpose of a consent agenda.
Well, I guess it's just for clarification on an address. Is that okay to ask now or no? I'm sorry. Tricia Lane is like the main drag going through there off of Spring Mill, and it looks like this would be a separate access road because there's a parcel in between it and Tricia Lane. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but Tricia Lane is to the south?
That street to be determined is going to be a private street. Some might still result
So
in
it'll
a
probably have a
Tricia
different
Lane.
address is what it, I thought that was Tricia Lane anyway, and maybe I'm confused. I just didn't quite understand what that street, if that's just an access, a private drive, or if that is a,
Yep, that's a private drive, which the addressing will then come off of Tricia Drive, which is that east-west road right there.
okay, so that's a privately maintained drive?
Correct,
Okay, sorry, thank you.
right? Yep.
We're looking for a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the staff reports.
Thank you. We have a motion from Andre Maui. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second from Matt Deck. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Horkay?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Spoljarek?
Yes,
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item of business. Westfield Yard, as I indicated, is continued. So we have one item of business, Plan Commission Order 2202, and that'll be presented by Kevin Todd, and I believe we have Jeremy Lawler who will be speaking as well.
Yeah, really, I'll just pass it over to Jeremy, just kind of a quick introduction. This is a creation of a new economic development area in the Osborne Trails area of our community. Jeremy, take it away.
Can you all hear me better now?
Very good. Yeah.
So on September 19th, the Westfield Redevelopment Commission approved and adopted a resolution designating the Osborne Trails Economic Development Area. Kevin, if you go back to the other exhibit. Yeah, so, the yellow portion is, so the economic development area will have two allocation areas in it. The yellow being age-restricted residential, and the blue being a typical commercial, allocation area within the TIP district there. Tonight, you will be approving, or considering, I should say, this resolution that confirms that the Osborne Trails economic development area conforms with the comprehensive plan. As you all know, this zoning has been approved for some time. The state of Indiana has legislation that allows age-restricted residential to be captured in an economic development area. And the intent of this economic development area is specific to improvements along 191st Street. It is the proposed mechanism that we fund at least a portion of that. So that's the summary, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff or Jeremy? As indicated, this is already out there. So it seems fairly obvious that we've already accepted it. Assuming so, is there a motion to approve Order 22-02?
Make a motion to approve APC Order 22-02.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Victor McCarty, second by Dave Schmitz. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. Johns?
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljeric?
Yes.
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Horkay?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We'll
you.
try to remind
Thank you all.
everybody at the end, if you could stick around to
Yep.
sign this resolution. That's not something that we normally have everybody do, but we need everybody to do that tonight. Thanks.
Moving on, we have one public hearing item this evening, Petition 2210-PUD-19, the Wheeler Landing PUD Amendment 5. In the absence of any public comment that causes any concern, this is something that we can approve to send recommendation to council tonight and allow to pass the opportunity for a visit for a workshop meeting. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, President. Good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Caleb Ernest with the Community Development Department. This request is an amendment to the Wheeler Landing PUD District for 6.22 acres in the Market District property. The property is located generally at the northeast corner of Grand Park Boulevard and Tournament Trail. All adjacent properties are also zoned the Wheeler Landing PUD District. This amendment is to modify the foundation planting standards as well as the outdoor merchandising display standards. This item is up for a public hearing tonight, has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments. A representative of this project is here tonight and plans on making a brief presentation. They are available, as am I, should you have any questions for staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you want the PowerPoint?
Yeah, please.
There you go.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having us on your agenda tonight. My name is Adam McGurk, and I work for Giant Eagle. As Caleb mentioned, we're here to discuss a PUD amendment for the Wheeler Landing site, specifically our proposed market district. Just a little background, which Caleb highlighted. We're just over 6 acres at the northeast corner of Tournament Trail and Grand Park Boulevard. The Wheeler Landing PUD was created in 2018. We do have detailed development plan approval for our proposed market district. Includes a 49,600 square foot grocery store. In addition to grocery, we'll have a cafe, pharmacy drive-through, as well as curbside pickup. In terms of points of access, we have a full access off of Tournament Trail, a right-in, right-out on Grand Park Boulevard, as well as an additional full point of access on Grand Park Boulevard. So the purpose of tonight's request, we met with Caleb for a pre-application meeting in August. We filed our application beginning September. We're asking for 2 modifications to the Wheeler Landing PUD district. One is for limited outdoor merchandising, and the other is what we're referring to as an alternate landscape plan, which is the foundation plantings that Caleb mentioned. One thing I want to stress about the outdoor merchandising, we did include provisions for this merchandising on our detailed development plan. So we do have approval with our plan for the merchandising. However, in order to do that, we had to add pull-down garage doors to our building to be compliant with the ordinance. So our request tonight really is for your opinion on our building, with the garage doors or without the garage doors. Bear in mind the garage doors were added after the fact to conceal the outdoor merchandising. Applicability, these requests would only apply to our lot, and all other provisions of the Wheeler Landing PUD would remain. So in terms of the area for outdoor merchandising, really it's the area highlighted in yellow, and this is under our front entrance canopy. It would be limited to that area only. We do include a sample footprint for our merchandisers, as you can see, and that is just conceptual. We do adjust them seasonally as we change the product. I think we missed a slide. I apologize for all the text on this slide. These are excerpts from the ordinance itself. There is a section that includes what we may display and what we may not display. The best way I can describe the items that we sell items at our front door that a lot of people buy to display at their own front door at their house. In the summertime, it includes floral items, hanging baskets, plants. As we reach the fall season, it transitions to more plants, cold-tolerant plants, the hardy mums, the kales, to accent the other items. We include pumpkins, corn stalks, gourds, things of that nature. And then as the fall season wraps up and we enter the winter months, we do have seasonal items such as evergreens, wreaths, pine cones, those little tree topper Christmas trees that have a stand on them already, firewood that's bundled already, and then other merchandise like that. We do use props, antique pickup trucks, and tractors that have been refurbished. We do outdoor sales for prepared food, hot dogs and hamburgers in the summer. We have a live hatch chili pepper roasting as well. Within the ordinance, though, there's also items that are prohibited. So basically any of the bulk items, mulch, salt, windshield washer fluid, things of that nature. And then we also exclude patio furniture, gas grills, and similar merchandise. And then with regards to this request, though, we have committed to displaying our products in a finished display. So we would not use cardboard boxes. We would not use pallets. Our merchandisers are a finished product. Here's some samples from a few other stores. As you can see on the top left, we do have a refurbished antique tractor, as well as the cart loaded with seasonal items. More of that in the middle. You can see that the live plants, the flowers. I'd note the containers that we're using here are a wood finish and not cardboard. This is a sample of our propane enclosure. So it's the manufacturer's enclosure wrapped with a decorative enclosure. It has a screen as well as a decorative frame. And then here's another example of a little wider view of our entrance and some of the merchandise that we display. These are our building elevations for Westfield with renderings of what the product would look like and what the displays could look like. we'd like to think that the displays complement the building the same way the foundation plantings do. It's a lot of green and natural items at the base of the building, the same way with the foundation plantings. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this is a sample of what the pull-down garage doors would look like in the up position. We did include this detail on our plan, so there would be one in this, in between these columns here, a second, a third, and a fourth here as well. So again, this merchandising plan was approved on the detailed development plan on the condition that we install these pull-down garage doors. The building was not designed to include the garage doors. That was something that we added after when we were told that the exterior merchandising needed to be screened. So it's not really designed for the garage doors. Keep in mind, even in the up position, you're going to see the framing and the boxes. It's not really going to complement the architecture of the building. In terms of landscaping, these are the three amendments that we're requesting. As Caleb mentioned, the plantings in excess of 15 feet to be counted as foundation plantings, including planters as foundation planting materials, and then a setback requirement for the sidewalks and curbs for the shade trees along the private drive. And we'll go into these in more detail real quick. So this is the front of our building. In terms of the landscaping changes that we're requesting, this is the most important to us. In order to comply with the ordinance, we did install, or propose, I should say, planters in between the columns here. As you can see, this little stretch here, and then another stretch of plantings here. This is an issue for us because it creates a funneling effect for our customers coming to our store as well as exiting. And keep in mind, it's not just customers walking into the store, it's customers walking out of the store pushing shopping carts. It's going to funnel them between these two areas instead of letting them disperse more naturally as they walk out of the store. This one is also located in front of the crosswalk area. So again, it's diverting more of the customers coming in and out to this area here. When we looked at this, we tried our best to not ask to eliminate plantings. We want to relocate them because they are important. So for these plantings here, we are proposing to relocate them to this end. And then these plantings as well would connect to this landscape area right here in the front. One other item to note is these are under a canopy, so their ability to survive is not necessarily guaranteed. They would be really sheltered from the rain and the sun. And then here's our front elevation, just to give you a little perspective on the building and the plantings that we're talking about and where they were proposed. So that one planter I mentioned is here, would be relocated to the end. And that second one is in between these columns, would be relocated to this end here. Moving on to the side and back, similar situation here. This is our pharmacy drive-through. We have two foundation plantings separated. This top one here is underneath the canopy, and this is a very narrow landscape bed dividing the bypass lane and the drive-through lane. So again, we did not want to eliminate the plantings. We are proposing to relocate these plantings to this area, which is in front of a screen for our generator, and then relocate these plantings here to be combined with the existing foundation plantings that are proposed here. Moving on to the back side of the building, this area got very tough for us. These are northern-facing plants, and not only are they just northern-facing, they're also at the base of the building, so they're going to get zero sunlight. The chance of survival here is very, very low. We're proposing to relocate these to fill in this gap here. This is an area where we kind of ran out of room to relocate. As you can see, we are very dense with plantings already. We would like to eliminate these two and have these count as our foundation plantings. These aren't necessarily a foundation planting, but they were added in. This is our team member break area. It is a canopy. Similar situation here. It's northern facing. It's under a canopy. They're not going to receive much sunlight or rain, and we are proposing to eliminate those. Lastly, the setback requirement for the shade trees. We have a row of shade trees proposed along our private driveway on the eastern side of the site. The ordinance requires a 4-foot setback from all curbs and sidewalks, and these trees do not meet that requirement. We are complying with the public, with the trees along the public right-of-way and public sidewalks, but this is along the private drive that we're asking for the modification. Just to give you a little perspective on the architecture of the building, you know, we're really excited about this store. This is a very nice market district in our portfolio. This is the 360-degree architecture. This is the side of the building here with the pharmacy drive-through. And then this is the rear of the building here. As you can see, windows on all sides, offsets, and rooftop modulation all around the building. And that's all we have for our presentation.
Thank you. This does require a public hearing. Doesn't appear that there's much public in the room to comment, but I will open a public hearing at 7:25 so that we can give an opportunity if there is anybody attending virtually and may have a comment to make to send us an email. So to anybody that might be attending virtually, if you have a comment regarding this, planners@westfield.in.gov. And at 7:28, we'll close the public hearing if there are no comments and move on to our discussion. It is now 7:28. If there hasn't been an email received, I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from
Just real
Planning
quick, a few.
Commission for staff or the petitioner?
Yeah, just a few comments and then a question at the end. For one, thank you for choosing Westfield, and thank you for being on our consent agenda and just adhering to our 32 design. I really appreciated that. Just comparing you to what we already have in Westfield, not to mention your competitors, but to mention your competitors. Walmart has a little bit of a outdoor display. Meijer, being the newest one, they do not. Target does not. But I know the Krogers do. And when you mentioned the garage doors, that's just what made me think, because I frequent the Spring Mill Kroger a lot, and they have garage doors. So I think that would very much so complement what you're trying to do with the rest of the building, and you guys definitely have your work cut out for you in terms of landscaping, having 3 sides to it. So I thank you for not wanting to necessarily take anything away, but just still improving. So I'm in favor of it. Just one general question that I had after coming through us on our consent agenda and just hearing some feedback from our community. Again, thank you so much for choosing Westfield, but why necessarily this location as opposed to maybe some other that are available in our neck of the woods? And I think one that came up a lot was 146th Street in the Harmony area, because that's been approved for a grocery, and I know it'd get a lot of walk traffic. So just curious in decision-making along those lines.
So, very good question. We are extremely excited for Westfield. We gave an intro to the council a few weeks ago, and I said those exact words. Some of you were there to hear that. This is a community that we're very excited about. The high standard that you have, particularly in this corridor that we've implemented into our building, it's tremendous. I mean, this is going to be a fabulous building and a fabulous site. To answer your question, I'm actually going to look to my counterpart that's here, Peggy Walsh. I work more on the development end, coordinating with the approvals. Peggy is in our real estate department. She's a director for real estate and analytics, and it's her job to go out and find the sites, and she's certainly been around this area to see. Peggy, do you have anything to offer for?
If you do have things to say, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Peggy Walsh, I'm with Giant Eagle. We did extensive analysis of demographics, customer patterns, traffic patterns, and things of that nature whenever we were looking at the different opportunities in the area. And as we performed that analysis, we determined that this location at Wheeler Landing was going to be the one where we had the best chance of success, given the positions of competitors in the market and the proximity to our Get-Go location, which is affiliated with the Market District.
You mentioned Get-Go, that was a thought as well, you know, because you guys have one just about every single location, so it's similar philosophy to your competitors. So no, I just wanted to, you know, hear a little bit about the thought process going into it, and I think it helps everyone up here as well. So again, thank you for choosing Westfield.
Yeah, no, we're glad to be here, excited about the store.
Thank you. Any other questions from Plant Commission?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. First of all, as far as the plantings, I think it makes sense to me, and I really appreciate that. I believe you really respected the intent, and these are relatively minor adjustments that are necessary in order to make sense for this building on the site. You aren't just, you know, finding a way not to have those in the budget. So I think it all made sense to me, and it's very good. As far as the outdoor display, this may be more of a question for staff, actually. So in my opinion, it's fine without the garage doors. I think it adds a lot of character with the graphics that you've shown, you know, with the antique vehicles and the produce displays and things like that. The questions that I have are this. First, you mentioned in the presentation, it's generally within the canopy area, and that's exactly how you've shown it. I don't know if we have language that makes that limit enforceable, again, if this isn't Market District at some point. So that's one question. I appreciate Caleb getting ready for that answer. And then also the list of outdoor display items that would be permitted, I find completely acceptable. And then the list that would be prohibited, I agree, I would not want those there. But there's an awful lot of other things that are on neither list, and how do you make that enforceable again for future if it's not Market District as well?
So for the first part of the question, I believe if you're able to, Pam, pull up the ordinance exhibit, please. They do make a reference to the specific exhibit that highlights the areas where the outdoor display is limited to, where the displays are only going to be shown. That's how staff is comfortable with that in the PUD ordinance. That'd be enforceable. Yeah. So the text of the ordinance also refers to Exhibit B as well. The areas highlighted on Exhibit B. So we're comfortable with being able to enforce that. As far as the actual items that would be permitted or prohibited, Meyer actually went through a similar process not too long ago, and the discussion did come up as far as even as far as new products that are going to be introduced that we don't even know about in the future with marketing and just how it all works. So the most that we can enforce now is what's written in the ordinance itself. Everything else, I mean, we don't have an extensive list of what you're asking about, even in the UDO. So, I mean, I would imagine that if it was a big enough concern that our department would revise the UDO accordingly. As far as the exact items in the PUD itself, I mean, like I mentioned, what's there is what we'd be able to enforce. Whatever's not in the PUD or the UDO, we wouldn't have any jurisdiction over. Looks like Pam's about ready to add in here too.
Yeah, I think if they proposed a new item that wasn't on either list, we would treat it similarly to a use that's not in any of our specific use categories and determine what it most closely aligns with. And if it most closely aligns with something on the permitted items, it would be permitted. However, if it more closely aligns with something on the prohibited items, it would be prohibited. And if we were completely at a loss, we would probably send it through an amendment.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. As far as the extent, my recommendation would be, because I looked for this when I saw that exhibit referenced, is just labeled the extent of the canopy. There's a dashed line there, and I think we all know at this point what it probably indicates. But as far as specific language that shows this yellow area is intended to line up with what is the extent of the canopy, a simple text note on that would probably make that so much even easier to validate if you ever needed to in the future. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Sorry, as Mr. Maui was talking, I had one last question that popped in.
Sure.
Because in my last visit to the Carmel Market District, I noticed that your food truck was out there. So I just didn't know if under this or just as it exists, you'd be allowed to have your food truck there, or you'd have to get further approval for that.
So in terms of whether food trucks are permitted or not, I would look to your staff to give us guidance on that. I can say the intention was with the area highlighted in yellow and the text that we put into the ordinance. We did intend to do food sales in terms of the hot dogs and hamburgers in the summer that I mentioned, and the live hatch chili roasting as well, that's seasonal. So we did anticipate food sales within the permitted area. Food trucks, though, I would defer to your staff in terms of whether that is permitted within the city's code.
So nothing in the current ordinance proposed before you talks about food truck sales. They'd have to go through the normal council approval process for that.
Thank you, guys. Just curious.
And in the Grand Park area, in general, we have tried vehemently to encourage sticks and bricks, not trucks. So, any other comments from Plan Commission members?
I guess I have a few. I'm trying to figure out, and then going back to the stuff that's already been talked about, what would and would not be acceptable, given the definitions that they're putting in here. The idea of the prepared food sales is not something I think we've entertained in any of our businesses that I'm aware of here, unless someone can think of something. And it just confuses me, you know, you have propane and, you know, and that kind of stuff, and right next to it you have live chili roasting. I know that that's,
Yeah.
these things enter my head.
Yep.
The other
Understood.
thing, I love the character of what it brings to the outside, but there's also a lot of problems that I've seen firsthand, and I've had people mention to me, people with strollers, and we have a lot of those, and then with the shopping carts, of course, and then we have vision impaired people and handicapped people, and kind of like the more that you put in between them and the door, or at least visually what they're seeing, it makes it more complicated for them. And it kind of gave me that feeling in seeing some of your pictures that it would actually make it a bit trickier for that kind of thing. And because we don't know all this stuff that would then be allowed here, it's hard to, obviously it would hurt your business if people were having trouble getting in and out of the door. So I'm sure that you have that factored in with your other businesses. But again, this food bit and how that works with the rest of this is what I guess I'm a bit conflicted about right now.
Okay. First, with regards to the access and make sure we're keeping areas open for people to access the store, keep in mind our displays are flexible. We do adjust them seasonally, so nothing that we're putting in is permanent that can't be moved. And I know the store operations will adjust as needed. So if a problem does arise with how we have something displayed, if it's blocking, we can certainly move it at that moment, and it wouldn't cause very many problems. You know, with regards to what's permitted and what's not, I go back to the point that we mentioned at the beginning. You know, we can do this with the doors. It's just a question of whether or not we're including doors or not. What complements the building more, the doors or the items that we're selling and the you know, displays that we have and the events that we're having. It really becomes a question of the garage doors in our mind.
Wouldn't we typically have like a 4-foot wall or something like that, screen wall, as part of our requirement for outdoor display sales kind of thing? I don't remember us saying that you had to have these doors. I mean, is that part of the PUD itself?
In the UDO, it requires some sort of screening, whether it's a fence or a wall. The doors is an alternative approach to still provide screening for the display area. So of those recommended screenings, the petitioners opted to go with the garage door approach. So if it wasn't the garage doors, they would supply a wall or a fence or some sort of screening mechanism for the display. But as far as the items themselves, everything as outlined in the staff report, I believe everything except for the propane tanks are already allowed per the UDO. So if you're looking at specific matchups of the items, the only thing that currently is not allowed in the UDO is the propane tanks within the outdoor display area. Does that make sense?
And just to clarify on the wall, if they went with the wall option, it would have to be at least 7 feet high. It's not a knee wall option.
Oh, okay.
So just a little more clarification on these garage doors. They would be up during the day, and then you would close them when you close in the evening, or 8 or
Correct.
9 o'clock?
Correct.
Do you have any concerns about security of those items that are outside, that you would want them for that reason?
So the nice thing with a lot of the merchandise, I mean, obviously you saw the displays of the plants, the hardy mums that we have in the fall. Obviously, those aren't something that we bring in every night. The nice thing, though, with the merchandisers they are on wheels and are portable, so they can be brought in if there is any concern of theft at the store. As far as I'm aware, we haven't had any issues in the past. I believe we have security in place, monitoring and all that, so thank you.
Any other commission comments? This is something that, if we are satisfied with the responses here, we can approve to skip the workshop meeting and go ahead and make a recommendation to council. Is there a motion to go ahead and waive the requirement for a visit for a workshop meeting?
I'll make a motion for 2210-PUD-19 Wheeler Landing PUD Amendment 5 to be able to skip our workshop meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Victor McCarty, seconded by Andre Maui, to forego the workshop meeting. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Spiljerik?
Yes.
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
Mr. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So now we can go ahead and make a recommendation to council. Or you have
I
another?
guess I'm still unclear on the garage doors. I think they're asking to waive those, correct?
So by approving the amendment, yes, we could do our outdoor merchandising without the garage doors.
Okay, so that's in the ordinance
Correct. Yeah.
currently, okay.
I'm sorry if I confused
didn't-
the matter there. I just want to make the point that we did have approval for the merchandising with garage doors. We're asking for permission to do outdoor merchandising, which would mean no garage doors.
Are we all equally as clear and happy with that? Yes? No? Anybody that is ready with a recommendation one way or the other to council, please make a motion.
I'll make a motion to send 2210 PUD 19 positive recommendation to city council.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Matt Deck, seconded by Dave Schmitz, to send a favorable recommendation to council. Will staff please call the roll?
Just like to clarify, I know it was discussed potentially adding a label on here for the canopy extent.
Oh,
Would you like that to be a condition of the motion? I don't want to get into an issue where they make changes after your recommendation, and then that becomes an issue at council because it wasn't part of the motion.
I'll jump in and say, as the person who brought it up, it's, for me personally, that's not necessary for this. I would recommend, I think maybe staff might want that in there, but I don't feel strongly that it has to be there.
It would be. Mr. Deck, would you like to amend your motion?
What is the specific language that I'm using?
To label the extent of the canopy in Exhibit B.
Make a motion to send 2210 PUD 19, the favorable recommendation to City Council with the amendment that they will label the canopy.
Extent of the canopy on
Extent
Exhibit
of the canopy, yes.
B. Okay. Dave Schmidt, you're still good with a second on that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, staff, please call the roll.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Ms. Boljaric,
Yes.
Ms. Berkman,
Yes.
Mr. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Johns.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all again for your time. We appreciate it.
Certainly. Go build. That concludes tonight's agenda items. All other items listed here are continued to a future meeting. So it takes us down to reports and comments. Are there any general comments from Plan Commission members that anybody would like to make right now? We should all wish Matt Deck happy 24th anniversary, that he is here present at this meeting instead of doing something with his bride, it appears, but I'm sure they'll.
I second that.
So anyway,
Thank you.
in the absence of other comments, yes. Downtown update from Kristen Berkman.
Tomorrow, we're gathering together the team and quite a few members from also the COA team, and we'll be reviewing the first grouping of items for the streetscape that MKSK has put together and moving towards making some recommendations. So we're moving forward.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. City Council liaison up next.
Council did not have the second meeting of the month, last month,
Yep,
but
that-
this coming Monday, we will have the introduction of the budget as well as the once every 10 years redistricting, so you might want to come out and support it.
See what's being proposed. I didn't look. Did Board of Zoning Appeals meet between our last meeting and now? I don't think so. No. Okay. We don't have a plat committee liaison or a plat committee meeting yet to report on, but we really do need to populate that group. We are looking for 5 folks. I am one of them. One of our city staff in the engineering department will be a second participant. Is it Michael Pierce?
Michael Pierce, yes.
Yeah. And we need 3
Yeah,
other.
we need 3 more, and we are looking at potentially having an item ready on the 24th. So if we could have these people ready to appoint at your next meeting, at our workshop meeting, that would be best. So yeah, you need 3 more people. At least 1 needs to be a citizen member. The other 2 could be Plan Commission or additional staff, though you can only have 2 staff. So you could have 1 additional staff, and then the others can be however you prefer to distribute it.
These meetings are going to be at 11 o'clock on Monday. So somebody needs to be available for those timeframes and hopefully understand a little bit about planning and zoning, so they'll understand why they are doing what they are doing. So think through your circles and extended circles, and if there is somebody you feel meets the needs for this this position, share that information on who it is, or talk to them first, and then share it with staff, myself, so we can get an understanding of who it is that we might be doing business with here to do this plat committee.
We haven't had anyone from the community come forward to volunteer, as we've talked about it
No,
online, and, okay.
Not
Said they
yet.
could volunteer.
Yeah, that's not very common, even for our other boards. We pretty rarely see that, I think.
I think we've mentioned it a couple of times,
it's,
during the meeting. If anybody's interested, reach out to staff, so, okay.
it's not for lack of mention. This on the scale of what you might find interesting and intriguing. Say, gee, I think I'd like to do that. So it's got to be like a 1 out of 10 because it's new, it's unknown, and it's not coming along with a lot of sizzle. But we do need 3 additional souls to help us out. So if you have anybody, please bring them forward. Item last then is our Community Development Department. Anything further to add from Community Development?
No, you took my comment here about plat committee, so thank you for covering that.
Took care of that.
Again, quick reminder, if you could stick around to sign the Plan Commission order
Yes.
that was approved this evening before you leave, that would be appreciated. I'm gonna bring up the agenda, and Pam has a question for you.
I do. Oh.
Of the agenda thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, regarding the signatures, we also have a previously approved Plan Commission order that was approved last year that we cannot locate a signed copy of. So we'll have you sign that one as well.
Do it again.
But so, yeah. One thing we're considering would be reducing the amount of paper that we use here. So right now, we're printing these notes agendas, 12 copies of them for all of you staff and the attorney, as well as 15 or more copies of the agenda up front, depending on how big the agenda is. So we're considering trying to reduce that in a couple ways. One would be if we just email this out and you can access it either on your phone or computer. Would you be comfortable with that for the notes agenda? And then for the main agendas, we're considering having a paper with a QR code so people can access the agenda from their phone, but then also stating that we'll have a limited number of printed ones up here for people who don't have smartphones or would prefer not to use that. But then we can reduce the number that we print, kind of help reduce waste. We do recycle the paper now, but just kind of an effort to not print as much every Monday.
How many times do we need to thank the people that invented QR codes? They're becoming so ubiquitous. So,
I guess it would be nice, to have some printed maybe
Yeah.
at the back as well for citizens, because we get lots of ages and different socioeconomic people coming in, and
Yeah.
they may not be able
Yeah,
to
and
use their
that's why-
phones very
yeah.
well.
Yeah, and that was why we intended to have a limited number up here, and we'd state if you prefer a printed agenda, come get one here. So we don't just have the first 5 people or 10 people who walk in, take all the agendas. Kind of encouraging the QR code, but saying we have them here, raise your hand if you'd like one.
Yeah, maybe that's good if you
Yeah.
can do that, have people, I just know how
Yeah. exactly.
comfortable people are coming up and
Yeah.
asking you as well. So,
Yeah.
we can
Okay.
work through it, but
Yeah, we can
I just want to
figure it
make
out.
sure it's accessible
Yeah.
for everybody.
I used to scribble on mine a lot. I find myself not taking nearly as many notes on it in hieroglyphics as I
Yeah.
used to, so I'm fine with doing that. If I feel passionately that I need a piece of paper to feel comfortable, I'll mention that, but I'm good with it.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out, then we can go back to the way it is now.
Like so many things that we have
Yeah.
tried, if it crashes and burns, we'll retool and come back to tried and true success. So, everybody needs to stick around, but we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn, but you can't leave.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion from, was that Victor? Is there a second? Seconded by Kristen Berkman. We can do this since we have no virtual attendees. Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned, 7:54.